Welcome to the I Am Your Friend podcast. I'm your host, Aiden Licker. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really exciting episode today with my friend Virginia, who I've been friends with for a very long time. We met in college, and she lives here in New York, and she was very instrumental in, I pronounced that super weird, but we're going to let it go. We're going to let it fly today, folks. She was very instrumental in helping me get here. When I was on tour once and we were in New York, I went and got coffee with Virginia, and she told me about the job that I now have, which is crazy to think about because it felt like a lifetime ago that happened. And here we are. Now Virginia is one of my closest friends in New York. We do work together, so we see each other quite a bit. And I'm very grateful for her friendship. And one of our biggest bonding topics, I suppose, is movies. So this episode, we kind of go into why movies mean so much to us and why, our theories as to why they're kind of more popular now amongst the young indie hipsters than it seems like they ever have been. And why we love movies, and then we get into, we go through all the Oscar movies and talk about our opinions and all of those things. And it was a really fun episode, one of my favorites yet, and I hope you enjoy it.
Friendship, for example, is a real gift.
It's an insane world. In it there is one sanity, the loyalty of old friends.
You're the best friends anybody ever had.
Alone, bad, friend, good.
Bubba was my best good friend. I had to make sure that he was okay.
Friendship and family, these are the things that matter.
Can we just become best friends? Yep.
Touch my friends again and I'll blind you. Thanks, Mike. You're my best friend here.
Lose one friend, lose all friends, lose yourself.
We ride together, we die together. Bad boys for life.
That's what friends are for, right?
Friends? Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
If you're not over here in 15 minutes, you can find a new best friend. You've been saying that since the 5th grade.
I thought it would be interesting to start by just talking about where our loves of movies came from and why. I don't know. I talked a lot last episode about why I think I love movies and award season so much, and I think it's because of the way that media has changed, and how in music, for example, we just have there's so much of it and it's so specifically curated to specific taste, where I feel like movies is the one last thing that's you can still connect with a mass audience over it,
Yeah, and I feel like there's not the self-consciousness of everyone is into this movie, so I don't really want to love it, and it bothers me that everyone loves it. I don't feel that way when I consume movies, and if I feel a certain way about it. But it's interesting because when you say where my love of movies began, I think it started when I was a little kid.
Same.
And my dad would be watching the Halloween movies, the original one from 1978. And I would always kind of stand in the hallway, and I was nervous to watch it, but I was so intrigued by it. And I feel that's that started my love of horror movies, but also just that's the first movie I remember being whoa, this is blowing my mind.
Right. Yeah, I for me it was comedy movies for the most part. I feel growing up, and I feel biopics or just stories that were true stories that were made into movies that was I can't believe this actually happened kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just as a
definitely.
kid, that idea in my head that it was and then it got made into a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But comedies for sure. My dad is just a huge comedy movie guy in general, loves Monty Python as well. So growing up, I feel I remember the Austin Powers movies were the first PG-13 movies I was allowed to watch.
Yeah.
And it was just because my dad thought they were so funny and just wanted me to laugh at them. You know what I mean? And so it was always a family affair, going to Blockbuster and renting a movie, and we would all watch it together. I remember all of us watching The Phantom Menace, the Star Wars Episode 1, when it first came out on VHS, and all of us turned the lights off in all the living room. It was my dad and all my brothers, and we all and some of us are on the floor watching it, whatever, and it was always a family event to watch a movie.
Yeah, I remember we watched our family VHS copy of Young Frankenstein probably
amazing
25 times when I was growing up, and as most people can probably relate, I don't agree with my parents on a lot of things, but movies are like that one thing that can kind of like unite like so many people who probably have like a million different opinions. But yeah, we watched Young Frankenstein so much, and like our VHS player was working until like last weekend, and we
bummer.
would watch like, we had a Harry Potter on VHS, we had so many things.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think that like it's just one of those forms of media where I think I'm pretty social, but I feel more comfortable when I'm talking about something that I'm excited about, and I get really excited about movies. And if I meet someone new and like they just don't watch movies, it's nothing against them, but I'm just like, I don't really know what to talk to you about now.
I have a few friends like that it's like, and again, I'm the same way. I'm so passionate about movies. I get so excited about movies. And like when I try to talk to like these friends about it, they're just like, yeah, they're like, I'm just not a movie person.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, that's
unfortunate.
Sad. Yeah. It kind of makes me sad. Then I'm just like, wait, you get nothing out of this? You know?
Yeah. Especially because like movies are such a great way to learn about people and experiences and parts of the world that I'm probably not going to go to, and parts of history that I obviously can't experience.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's amazing to see also just like all the things that have happened with movies and the technological changes and the ways that things can be shown in movies, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, I agree. As far as like the learning part, I feel like part of like my passion towards like a lot of like social issues definitely stems from movies. Like specifically, like I remember growing up and like my little brother and I would like always watch like not just like Black history movies, but also like Black culture movies, like movies like Friday and like Bebe's Kids, and like these movies that were like specifically made for Black culture. But me and my brother were just like these young kids that just like, for some reason it was on TV and we watched it and just like learned about, like, you know, we grew up in South Buffalo, which is a very like predominantly white part of the city, and Buffalo being like a very segregated city and everything. So like it was just a view into a world we weren't familiar with, you know, and at a young age, which is just like crucial to be like more open-minded about it. And then, you know, I remember obviously a movie like Remember the Titans, and then like I would remember like going to see the movie Glory Road, which was like about like a movie that like nobody talks about for some reason, but I don't know if I remember it as being good, but maybe it wasn't. But it was a Disney movie about the first NCAA basketball team to have 5 Black starters, and I remember going to see that with my grandma when I was like 10. So just, I don't know, a lot of these things is just at a crucial age just like shaped the way I viewed the world, and like the way like racism and shit was portrayed in movies from a young age. I feel like definitely led to like my very passionate like views on like, you know, social progressivism and everything like that.
Yeah, definitely same for me. And like I've definitely put myself out of my comfort zone with my movie watching over the past few years, just like making more of an effort to watch movies made by, you know, like I watched a great movie last year, Fry Bread Face and Me, and it's I can't remember the name of the director, I'm so sorry, but it's like kind of a retelling of his childhood, going to visit his family, who lived on a reservation in Arizona, I think, and just like way more about Native American culture than I like knew at all. And I think that it's like so great to watch movies from all around the world, and like the Oscar like international feature film section, like I always try to watch those if I can. It just like I think growing up it's so easy to think like, oh, there's only the movies that are in like the town center theater that I would go to, but like actually there's so many other important movies that sometimes never even make it to a theater, and it's been really nice to just like make more of an effort to watch those.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember like, I mean, I probably had only seen, you know, mainstream blockbusters, whatever, for like most of my life until I want to say like the Tumblr days and like 2010s, when you would just see random like GIFs of like some sort of obscure indie movie that has like a cult following
Submarine.
Online. I don't know what that is. What's Submarine?
Submarine was the one with I can't remember the name of the actor, but it was based on a book, and Alex Turner from the Arctic Monkeys did the soundtrack.
Oh, really?
So it was like, it was big on Tumblr, and it was like 2 teenagers, and the girl was really cool and edgy, and like this guy liked her, and like she didn't like him, and there were a lot of quotes pulled from from there on Tumblr.
I'm sure I would recognize it. Like if I were to watch the movie, there's probably parts that
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh yeah, I remember seeing this. But I feel that's how I discovered, and I don't know if, but that's how I discovered 500 Days of Summer. I don't know if 500 Days of Summer was necessarily an indie movie.
That's how I discovered The Smiths, unfortunately.
Was that movie?
Yes.
Me too. That's okay. Yeah, because I was like 15. Why? And you know, when we were born in 1995, why would we know who the Smiths are in the U.S.?
Right.
You know, so it's okay. Don't beat up on yourself for that. That we can be
you.
forgiven for that.
Thank you.
But that is, I remember 500 Days of Summer. I remember learning about that movie through Tumblr. And I don't know if 500 Days of Summer was necessarily an indie movie, but it was definitely a different kind of movie than anything I'd ever seen. Like it was really, I don't know. The way it was filmed was just like, it was filmed like it was like an indie, like art house movie. And it was a great intro for me into that world. And Tumblr was also how I discovered Donnie Darko and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which are now like two of my favorite movies, both in my top 4 on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
And, so Tumblr kind of brought me into like the world of indie movies. And then I think our generation specifically is kind of lucky that, you know, 2013 A24 launched and really just like, and I feel like A24 was such the perfect like result of like Tumblr fascination with like art house film, you know, kind of stuff. So and I feel like A24 has now just become like a meme almost, but that those releases definitely like helped me get way more into like what movies can be, you know, and like not necessarily just like the telling of a story, but just like a you know, sometimes just an observation or just a piece of art in general that just is meant to make you feel something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about Tumblr is like you're kind of just being presented with images and quotes, and it's like, oh, this is interesting, like I want the rest of this. Like, I think that's what got me into watching Twin Peaks and being interested in David Lynch, because I followed people who would reblog things from Twin Peaks, and then I was like, well, I want to see the rest of this, and then that's what made me go and get actually I had to go to my local library when I was still in college. I think it was like in the summer. I like went and requested that they, from like the bigger county library, get me the DVD of like Mulholland Drive and Blue Velvet, and I just like made myself watch those movies. And I remember on Tumblr seeing a lot of virgin suicides, which I feel like is kind of like the girl equivalent to seeing Donnie Darko all over Tumblr.
Oh, okay.
And it was just like this very like dark, edgy movie, like I'm a teenager, you don't get me, and I like also went and like rented the DVD of that, which is it's a great movie.
I feel like
it's kind of dark.
What is it? Girl Interrupted? Is that what it's called? I feel like that falls into that. I remember seeing that movie on Tumblr as well.
Yeah, Angelina Jolie.
Heathers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved Heathers.
Yeah,
I mean,
me too.
I still love it, but like to the point that I bought a poster off of Etsy because I kept seeing this image on Tumblr.
I was gonna say, I was gonna ask if you discovered that one on Tumblr as well. Yeah. Those were a few other ones for sure. Is Eraserhead David Lynch?
It is.
Have you seen it?
I didn't watch it until like a few years ago. I honestly think it might have been like in 2020 that I watched it, because I was like, what else am I doing? And then I was at the point where it's like, you know, you see things on Tumblr, you're like, I want to like this, so I watched it, and I feel good about these movies that we've been talking about, but I feel like if I had watched Eraserhead when Tumblr was around, I would have been like, yeah, that's amazing, I have to like this. I think Eraserhead is interesting and it's fascinating and it's cool that it was made, but it's a very like strange movie.
So I've never seen it, but I'm in my era right now of not being on social media, so I've just been on Reddit just to get my news and stuff, and I joined a bunch of like different movie fan Reddits, and just so I can hear about like, you know, anything going on or movies coming out and like Oscar conversations and things. And someone recently brought up something about Eraserhead, and I just was like reading the discussion, and people were like, it's the most like disturbing movie I've ever seen or whatever, but they're like, but it's also like incredible. So like so I don't think I've ever seen a David Lynch production, but it's on my list. Everybody says start with Twin Peaks.
I think you could, but I think that the TV show can be a little slow for some people.
Oh, okay.
I loved it, but I've tried to get other people to watch, and they're like, it's slow, I can't get past like the first couple episodes. So I actually would say start with one of his movies. Like Blue Velvet is great, and it's just a movie, so you're not committed to like 2 seasons. Mulholland Drive,
2 seasons is...
Yeah, for me, I mean, I could I want to watch it
Yeah.
again anyway.
I'm gonna
but
watch Twin Peaks, and I think I will like it.
I think you will like it too. But I'm just saying I don't think that it's for everyone, and
Sure.
that's perfectly fine. Also, Mulholland Drive, I think, is like maybe the most blockbustery of his movies.
I was gonna say that's the one that like I feel like I've heard of
Yeah.
in like mainstream culture more.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think like David Lynch is just like a fascinating person. Like he did this thing during the pandemic where he would just record himself reading the weather every day. Like I don't know what he's going to be doing next. I don't know if he needs to do anything else. He's probably financially fine. But he's just like his brain is so interesting. And like with The Curse, that the Showtime show that just happened with Nathan Fielder and Emma Stone, everyone was comparing it to like David Lynch and Twin Peaks.
Okay, well I loved The Curse, so
I did too.
yeah,
Maybe we should do another episode where we just talk about that.
that would be funny
Yeah.
because that show was crazy, and I have so much to say about it, and also nothing to say about it at the same time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I feel like it's a show. It's like just watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a show that I loved at the beginning, and then in the middle was like, where is this going?
Yeah.
And then at the end was like, holy fuck. And then just had to like think about my life for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like when a form of media, whether it be a TV show or a movie, can just like totally take you out of your own world.
Yeah.
I think that's why I like lean on movies so heavily, because I don't want to think about our world and I want to just focus on whatever weird thing someone else came up with.
It's an incredible escape.
Yeah.
And that's why like I love going to the movies alone as well.
Yeah.
It's just going, turning my phone off for a couple hours and just getting to experience a big screen.
Yeah.
Which is nice. However, I'm so particular about, I feel like I've been spoiled my whole life because I've been going to like Regals and didn't realize it's my same theory on that I've been spoiled my whole life because of going to Wegmans. Like having a Wegmans down the street from me and a Regal down the street from me, like in West Seneca, ruined the rest of my life because now like no grocery store compares.
No,
and
it doesn't.
and just like I like supporting a small theater or like a local theater, but they're just like not great.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name it, but the one that's right here, that's at the end of my street.
Yep.
I go there all the time because it's right at the end of my street. How could I not, you know? But it's not great.
Right. I know which one you mean.
Yes. The sound is never loud enough.
No.
I went and I saw Poor Things there this weekend, and like I can hear everybody eating popcorn over the movie playing.
Yeah.
Because it's not like turned up loud enough. And then like the projector is not like calibrated properly, so it like looks angled on the screen. It's just like, what are we, why am I paying full price for this? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if it's going to be cheaper quality stuff, it should be a cheaper ticket.
Definitely.
Well,
I go to a major chain, so it won't reveal where I live, but I go to an AMC all the time. I'm an AMC Stubs member.
Yeah.
And I went and saw Godzilla -1 there, which is a great movie. But even there, like it's a movie that like has quiet moments.
Mm-hmm.
And I could just hear the Beyonce movie next to us.
Yeah, that's so frustrating.
During those
And I
moments.
think this is a very New York problem.
Yeah.
Because movie theaters exist in these like buildings that are not necessarily the most ideal situation for movie. Like the movie theater I grew up going to was in a giant parking lot that was like had nothing around it.
Yeah.
Now there's more things around it, but it was just this gigantic building meant just for the movie theater. It had 18 theaters in it that were all separated, and like you just never had that issue.
Yeah.
But I feel like it is tough in New York for these like multiplex type theaters.
I've had some like fantastic movie going experiences here. Like
Alamo is amazing.
Alamo is great, and I really like how they threaten to kick you out.
Yeah, they take it very seriously.
Yeah.
It's truly a theater for like people like us who are like very serious about or very passionate about seeing movies or watching movies. Yeah.
I just don't understand, like this has happened a few times now where people are talking during a movie and I just really want to go up to them, and I won't like say this lengthy sentence because then I'll upset more people in the theater, but like why would you pay $20 if you're just going to sit on your phone? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
Like when I saw Ferrari, There were some boys being like really rowdy in the front during the trailers, and I was like, well, this is the trailers, and like, I don't know, these guys probably like Michael Mann. They're probably really excited to see this movie. They probably love Adam Driver. And they were talking during the movie, and like they were laughing, and they were on their phones, and I could see them, and it got to the point where I was like, I can't take this anymore. And I went up to them and I was like, can you please be quiet? And they were quiet for a while, and then they started talking again, and someone else told them to leave, and I'm like, I don't understand what they were getting out of that, and they didn't see the rest of the movie. And
Youths.
Yeah.
Kids these days. No manners, no appreciation for good art.
I would have never like talked during a movie. I mean, I also don't want to upset anyone. So that's I'm also a Pisces.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Avoid confrontation. Although I will say, I feel like living in New York has made me much better about it.
Yeah, and I think the fact that I went up to them and wasn't afraid of them, I also thought maybe I seem like older to them, and maybe like an older woman scolding them will knock some sense into them, but not necessarily. But I'm proud of myself.
I'm proud of you too.
Yeah, especially me going to an Adam Driver movie.
Yeah, that's huge. I know you have your personal beef with Adam Driver.
Yeah, I just am not
something
his
about
biggest
him
fan.
just irks you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it was him and Girls that irked me, and I'm not great at separating the character from the person or the actor. And I know a lot of people would be like, "Well, it's so easy. It's the character, and they're an actor, and get over it." But I saw the movie.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's good. I personally love Adam Driver in Girls, which is so funny that I think you hated it. But I guess it makes sense. I also think it's like, I think because his character is like so silly and like not realistic.
Yeah.
He's just like a ridiculous man. And I think it's funny.
I was also in college when I watched it.
Sure.
So my mind has evolved.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, you're doing great.
Thank you.
Fantastic
Ferrari,
growth.
not nominated for any Oscars.
I haven't seen it yet. I didn't know if it was worth watching. Is it good?
I think it was good. I think I'm disappointed that like Penelope Cruz was great and she wasn't nominated for an Oscar.
Oh.
But that's like the only thing that I have to really say about it.
As far as standing up for ourselves goes, this weekend when I went to see The Zone of Interest, I sent my drink back.
Wow.
That's something I've never done before.
Yeah, I want to hear all about your Zone of Interest experience.
So we'll get into the Oscar movies. We're going to talk. This is a perfect transition. We're going to talk all the movies we've seen. You know, what our favorites are. We're going to talk snubs maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows where this is going to go. All right. So we'll start with Zone of Interest.
The darkest place we could start.
I was going to make the sarcastic joke of being like the happiest movie of the year. Mm-hmm. Second to Killers of the Flower Moon. And so I go to see Zone of Interest. I go to another theater because I don't want to bad talk it, but one further down the road, not the one right at the end of my street.
Okay.
Further down.
Okay.
You know which one I'm talking about? There's only two in my neighborhood.
I think so.
There's another one in South Brooklyn.
Okay.
And I think there's another one in Manhattan maybe. It's a local chain of movies that is similar to Alamo Drafthouse, which is an amazing theater. And I do like this place generally. I just didn't have a great experience this time. But it's a place that is like a full service theater. Typically like it's like seated in pairs. It's typically like a date place. And you have like a full server. They're like a bar. They have cocktails. It's more of a place that focuses on that than the actual like movie theater experience traditionally, which is fine. But this was a place that was showing Zone of Interest, and I wanted to go see it early in the day, per your suggestion. And they had it at like 1:20, and I was like, perfect. So I walked down there. I got there early. I sat in my seat. Server comes up, asks what I want. My go-to every time I go to the movie theater is a Sprite. If they have butterless popcorn, I will do it, but most places don't. This place does. So and they do popcorn and coconut oil, and it's really good. I actually think I don't know about better, but it's a very nice, different taste.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a vegan, but I don't like butter on my popcorn.
Okay,
so you're not alone.
Well, the coconut oil is very good.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
So I got that with my Sprite. Okay, so they bring the Sprite out, and he puts it down, and it looks like water. Mm-hmm. There's like virtually no bubbles.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm like, interesting. Don't like the sign of this. And I take a couple sips. And I'm like, this tastes like water with like a splash of lemon lime flavoring. Mm-hmm. This is clearly flat. You know what I mean? And now, typically, I'll just be like, whatever.
Right.
I just deal with it. I'm just like, it's not terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just drink it. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to send it. I'm going to say something.
Yeah.
It was also earlier in the movie. Like, the movie hadn't started yet. I'm one of the only people there. I don't feel like I'm bothering a server because there's nobody else really there.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I can take care of this early, you know? And so the guy comes out with my popcorn, who was not technically the guy who took my order. Well, technically it made no sense to say that, but you know what I'm saying. It was not the guy who took my order, but I was like, he can relay the message for me. I was feeling good, you know? So he sets my popcorn down and I go, thank you. And I just go, I ordered a Sprite. I go, this is flat. Just wanted to let you know. And he was like, all right, we'll get it taken care of. No worries. And I was like, thank you. So then the server comes back and he goes, hey, sorry about the Sprite situation. There's a chance that our Sprite is just like that. He goes, if that's the case, can I get you something else? And I just like stared at him for a second because I was like, there's no way that that's what you are serving people if they order a Sprite. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
There's no bubbles in it. You know what I mean?
Unless nobody else has ever said anything.
Right. Or I also take it as like, this is a place that's like, it's a 21 plus place. Mm-hmm. It's mostly focused on like being a bar. So it's like most people are probably, if anything, getting like cocktails or like a mixed drink with Sprite where it's like they don't notice. Mm-hmm. You know? So it's like, maybe that is just how they do it, and it's just not a place where you're just going to go and get a soda. So I was just confused. But however, nobody had gotten, or I hadn't had coffee yet that day, and I heard someone behind me order a coffee. So I was like, oh, they have coffee. I was like, you know what? So when he asked if there's anything else I can get you, I'm like, if it is just like that, I'll take a coffee. And he's like, all right, you got it. So I'm like, great. So then, so as I said, this theater has people who sit in pairs, right? So, and I'm there by myself. So eventually someone comes in and sits next to me, which is like, whatever. But then I realize they know the person who's sitting on the other side of me.
Okay.
So they're like leaning over to talk to them. And this is, again, all before the movie starts. So like, whatever, all fair game. And I just immediately, I'm like, do you want to switch seats? And she was like, would you be down? And I'm like, absolutely. Like, zero problem. Like, I get it. Like, you guys showed up together. There weren't 3 seats together, so you pulled this move. All good. So we switched, and that was fine. And then the server came back and was, like, confused because we switched seats. And I'm like, it's not that big of a deal, whatever. Yeah. So then the movie starts. I still don't have my Sprite, you know? And then, you know, this movie is going on. So now, for anybody who doesn't know, The Zone of Interest is a movie about the captain Nazi soldier at Auschwitz. And it's about him and his family living on the grounds of Auschwitz, and they have a concrete wall separating where they live from the actual camp, and the whole movie is just about like the family being a normal family, and it's haunting, and you never actually see like what's going on the other side of the wall. So, you know, I'm watching this movie, and the other thing about this movie is there's really no plot.
No, I've heard that they like set up a lot of cameras within the house too, and would just kind of have the cast like move around, so it was almost like they didn't really know what was being filmed, and it's supposed to almost feel like Big Brother-esque. Yeah, so that is kind of how it feels, is you're just kind of observing this family while this like horrible thing is going on the other side, and nobody's acknowledging it. Yeah. Right. But they're all just like acting like a normal family. Like, I love, there's like a scene where the wife character is like, gets like a fur coat, and she just like is putting it on and trying it on, and then she gets lipstick, and she's just like looking in the mirror trying it on, like, does this lipstick look good? And it's like there are an entire like race of people being murdered on the other side of this wall. You know what I mean? So it's like just insane, but brilliant for that reason. So also, I went into this movie blind. Should say that. All I knew was that it took place during the Holocaust. That was it. And you knew to go early in the day. Like, because you told me that. Yes. Also, this particular theater, I've noticed they do this. Whatever movie you're going to see, before the previews start, they will play clips of movies similar to this movie that you're about to see. Okay. So I saw Barbie there.
And before Barbie, they would play a bunch of clips of like Life Size, like that movie, or like any sort of like movie that was about like, you know, Mean Girls was part of it, like any like thing that was catered towards like teenage girls and like, you know, bright pink colored female empowerment themes kind of thing, right? But I'm going to see this movie, and so they are playing clips of a bunch of different movies that are about the Holocaust. Okay. Before the movie,
there's a lot of them.
Yeah, so it was like Boy in the Striped Pajamas, Schindler's List, and then there was one that was a comedy. That
Inglourious Bastards?
No, I didn't know what it was, and I want to look it up. And if you know what it is, great. If anybody listening knows what it is, let me know, because I didn't know how to look it up. But it just showed a scene where it's like a bunch of, you know, prisoners in the camp house or whatever, and a German soldier comes in and just yells, who in here speaks German? And the one guy asks another guy, he's like, what did he just say? He goes, he asked if anybody speaks German. And this dude just raises his hand. And he calls him up, and he's like, you're going to interpret what I say to these people. So the German guy is speaking very loudly in German, and I believe this other guy is speaking Polish, and is just making it up.
Okay.
And it's like what he's saying is hilarious. Like the German guy is like, you're going to work every day. You're not going to complain. Like being very stern. And this guy is just interpreting it, hoping that he gets some sort of special treatment out of it.
Right.
But he doesn't know what he's actually saying. So he's just like making up that he's like, we're going to go eat a bunch of candy and like whatever. Like it was super funny, like whatever it was. But it was clearly an older movie.
Yeah.
70s or 80s probably. But the scene was so funny. Like I was cracking up watching it.
Okay.
And I don't know what it is.
I was almost going to guess Life is Beautiful, but that's an Italian movie. But I feel like there's like some comedy in there. It's a great movie.
Is it take place during the Holocaust?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe. Yeah, maybe it was Italian that he was speaking. I feel like that
sounds like something that character would do, and I've been wanting to rewatch that movie anyway, so I'll do it for you.
Let's see if I can pull it up on IMDb real quick. Life is Beautiful, it's called.
Yeah.
1997.
Yep.
Yes, this is definitely it.
Awesome.
Yep. That was it. Wow, amazing.
Not awesome for like the subject matter, but I'm glad that my brain worked.
Okay. That's crazy that you figured it out, but yeah, that's definitely was the guy. That hilarious.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. It's definitely like weirdly like
funny.
It's not that it's funny. It's just like it's such a different Holocaust movie.
Yeah.
And we watched it in my Italian class for some reason when I was in high school, and I just remember being like, "Wow, like what a, like I don't know, it's almost like a I don't know what word I'm trying to think of, but it's emotional, but like I mean the title of the movie is Life is Beautiful, and you'll probably feel that way when it's
okay.
over.
All right. Well, highly recommend it. I'm sure you could look up that scene somehow on YouTube. It was very funny. But anyway, so the whole fiasco was somebody coming into the theater. Now I'm watching the movie, and I'm like, I still don't have my drink, and I'm just waiting for a server to come out to see if they have a Sprite or a cold brew or whatever.
Yeah, you don't know what you're getting.
So I'm just like, the door is like right here. So I'm just like watching the movie. I'm like all the way to the right. So I'm like watching the movie, and every time the door opens, I'm like, you know, and so, but it's this very like intense movie as well. So I get through the whole movie, and then my drink never comes. And now at this theater, again, it's like this full service theater. So they drop the bill like right before the movie ends. So the bill gets dropped, and I'm like, oh, okay, the movie's almost over, but nothing has happened. You know, so like, again, so now I'm realizing like, oh, there's no plot to this movie, really, you know? And then, and also I never got my Sprite or my coffee, but they didn't charge me for it. And that's what I was worried about.
Okay.
There was part of me, because like when you go to these full service theaters, instead of the server like taking your order, like pulling them aside, you write it down. And so there was part of me that was like, do I write down like, hey, I ordered a Sprite, but it was flat, so I sent it back. Then I ordered a coffee and never got it, and I just want to make sure I'm not charged, and just write that whole message down and just put it on the thing, you know? But that movie was very dark.
Yeah.
And at the end, I was just like, God damn. The final scene, which I won't, you know, we're going to do our best to avoid spoilers here, but like where it like cuts to present day was wild.
Yeah, I really liked that choice to do that.
Agreed.
And I think that I've seen like mostly positive reviews. Some people think that there are issues with like the way that you never really see what's happening on the other side of the wall. I'm not a professional film critic, but from my perspective, I felt like it really made me think so hard about just the fact that like evil can be portrayed in movies like the boogeyman, or evil can be like
the most normal.
Yeah. Most normal to some people, because this family is based off of a real family. It's based off of Rudolf Haas and his family, and like they had children. And imagine like you're just living in this town in Poland with your family, and you have this beautiful garden and everything seems fine, and you have no idea what your dad is doing all day.
Right.
It's like your dad's like the Grim Reaper or something. Yeah. I think just this concept of like in our world, like always trying to find like the good, but being aware that evil really is like in so many forms and constantly there.
Especially like in today's world with like a lot of things going on. And you just like do your best, but it is, there is definitely like the question of like being complicit.
Yes. And it's a lot of like, I think the movie is trying to make a point about it's all these little things that add up, and ignoring X, Y, and Z, which leads to all of this
large
bad
atrocities.
Yeah.
Right. And there also is obviously the symbol of hope in the movie, which is like the one daughter. And I really liked how they did it, how they show her in like negative.
So so are you interpreting it that it's one of the dad's daughters, like the guy running?
Maybe it wasn't. Was she the girl working in the house?
So I was confused by that also. And also this was the first time in a while that I watched a movie and I was like, I didn't really understand everything, but I'm okay with that. Yeah. I just took it in like as whatever it was. Sure. So I went with my boyfriend to a like small theater near our hometown, and it was just a lot of old people because we went at like 11:15 in the morning on a Sunday, and we just kind of sat there for a while after like digesting it. But I like did some research, and basically like that was based on a real woman, and she was 12 years old at the time, and she was part of like the Polish resistance. So these shots that you see, these scenes, which I think were so like interesting to cut into the movie, that are shot in like a negative camera or whatever, that was her going and hiding fruit, like where the workers would be. Yeah. And the director like met that woman when he started filming, and like really like used her old bicycle for those scenes. Wow. Yeah.
But the girl who's actually doing it in the movie, or the character, because we see her come into the house at the end.
She's just going to like her own house. She has nothing to do with that family. Oh, that's not the house. Yeah, it's confusing. But yeah.
Okay. See, I saw it as like, I thought she was coming back into the house that was like the family's house, and I thought maybe it was either the daughter or like the one girl who like works for the family or whatever.
No, she's just totally unrelated to the family.
Okay. So yeah, just either way, I interpreted it as she was some sort of like symbol of hope and like good, and putting her life on the line to like help people. Yeah, definitely. Which is good. I did see. So before I saw the movie, again, I went into it blind, but on Reddit in the vegan subreddit, someone was like, I just saw Zone of Interest, and I can't help but like tie it to like veganism, and I just was like, what?
Yeah, I don't know how they're doing that.
I get what they mean. So the whole time because I saw that before I saw the movie, I had it in the back of my mind that like I saw that post, and I'm like, okay, what do they mean? So like I had to think about it for a while, but I think what they're getting at is like the idea of like factory farming, and climate change, and like again, that's the reason that I went vegan, was like, obviously corporations should be the ones who are held responsible, and individuals are probably not going to make much of a difference. My big disclaimer there. And that's why I don't push veganism on anybody. But the whole thing, like factory farming and like cows and everything, like being one, a leading emitter or carbon emitter. Is that the right word? I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you mean.
Carbon emissions.
Like the leading images of like fumes and everything that we're seeing throughout this movie.
Like a third of that or a half of that, whatever, comes from cows, and then also just like the treatment of animals and how we've like mass produced like the slaughter of animals, and like how, because we can't see it, like if basically like they were trying to say, like, if you could see the slaughter of animals and you can see how they're treated, if everybody had to look at that before going and eating meat or consuming dairy, you know what I mean, like it would be a lot different. But if you could put up that wall, so I get they were saying, I think just kind of an insane takeaway from that movie, but An interesting interpretation that I don't necessarily think is incorrect, because it is just about evil in general. So, but I just thought that was kind of wild.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, some people think so hard into like what a movie means, and I do think it's fun after you see a movie to like talk about it and like find meaning, but sometimes I'm like, I don't think that the person who made that was thinking that hard.
Right. What I really like, what kind of changed my view into like that kind of thinking of movies, was I went down, similar to how you were with David Lynch, I went through with Kubrick. During the pandemic, I just like went down a Kubrick rabbit hole. I don't remember what it was that I watched.
Was it Room 237, the documentary about The Shining?
No, but I watched that in college, which apparently that documentary is like not very credible, supposedly.
Yeah, I believe that, but I had fun like leaning into it.
Oh, of course, yeah. I do that with a lot of things. But apparently like or not apparently, but do you remember like early Netflix when like they used to have like lower budget, like not credible necessarily, because they weren't really making anything yet? Like that was one of them. I remember there was like an Eminem documentary that was on Netflix that was so poorly made.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
And I don't know. Netflix used to just have really like weird low budget stuff for a while, and I feel like that was one of them. But anyway, just went down a Kubrick rabbit hole, and eventually I watched 2001.
Nice.
Which is, I mean, one of like, as far as like when you watch that movie and realize it came out in like 1967, it's like unbelievable what they were able to achieve. And of course it plays perfectly into like the conspiracy that like the moon landing was fake, because everybody says Kubrick filmed it because he made this movie about space that looked very realistic.
Yeah.
But the whole ending of that movie is very like ambiguous and like, you know, kind of wild. And I mean, the opening of the movie too, which is recreated in the intro of Barbie.
Yes.
Also, you know, kind of an ambiguous thing and like open for interpretation, all this stuff. But Kubrick's whole thing was with 2001, with the ending, is he was just like, I just wanted that movie to make people feel something. Mm. He's like, if you left the theater and felt like that movie moved you in some way, that's all, then I achieved what I was setting out to do. This was not supposed to mean anything specific. I just wanted to create feeling. And it's like, and hearing that, I'm like, I love that. And sometimes that is all it has to be. You know what I mean? Yeah. If it made you just feel something, made you feel differently, made you think differently about something, it doesn't necessarily have to be like the specific commentary on a certain thing, you know?
Yeah. For me, with the zone of interest, when I left, I said to Pat, like, the thing that I was thinking about the most was, this was the first movie that made me think like about the ramifications. And I'm not trying to like sympathize or anything. I'm just saying, like, this family that was running Auschwitz, they had children. How did, after everything happened, like, how were the minds changed of the children of the people who were doing these things? Like, right. Obviously, like, we got away from that, but I just like, it was the first time I was like, oh, this is kind of like cult, and you had to like deprogram these people.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because you see, like, I mean, obviously the oldest son is like part of the Nazi youth.
Yeah,
you know, and is just being completely indoctrinated into it. And then I can't remember, but I feel like there is something with the younger son too, where he starts to kind of like, you see like early signs of him starting to get involved in it as well. And yeah, I mean, that I thought that for sure, of just like, and of course, like, these kids, like, when they just see the world through like their parents, like, it's like, of course they don't see their parents as evil.
Right.
It's just like, my dad's just going to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, and when these gunshots are going off and there's smoke coming out of these chimneys, like, they're not reacting, so I'm not worried about it. Right. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, that's just crazy. It's super, super powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, zone of interest. Very good. Did you do like a ranking? Oh, you did.
I did, for me.
Okay.
You can rank them yourself.
Well, I have one already.
Oh, okay,
great.
On
my Letterboxd. But I just have it as, I did like my favorite films of the year, but all the Best Picture films are in there.
I don't know off the top of my head if all of my favorite movies of the year are on this list, but I did a ranking of just the Best Picture nominees.
All right, and you have zone of interest where? 7?
Yeah.
Okay, mine is at, technically, of the Best Picture, hold on, let's see. I would have to redo my list. Right now, in my top of 2023, I have it at 10. I think of Best Picture, it would be at 8.
Okay.
Yes.
Should I just read mine in order?
Well, no, we can do it as we go. Like, we'll
Okay.
go through the different movies here. We could transition that, though, and talk about our number ones of the
Right.
year.
What's yours?
Mine is Poor Things.
Okay, mine is kind of similar to that, depending on how you look at it.
I was thinking about this morning.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a lot of people compare the two. Okay, so my number one is Barbie.
Yes. So I do think they're very similar movies. You have this character that is like never seen the real world and has to like figure it out. Also is a woman and figuring out like a world dominated by men. Obviously Poor Things is just like a much darker portrayal of it and more like explicit, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
And just much more bizarre and like science fiction-y.
Definitely.
But I love both movies. Also, did we already say Barbie? But Barbie is your number one. Yes.
Barbie, yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear anything negative from anyone about Barbie.
That's been your attitude since it came out,
Yeah.
and I love it and respect it.
It's my personality. I rewatched it for a third time.
I have to rewatch it. I haven't given it a rewatch. There's only one movie of the Best Pictures that I've rewatched so far, which is The Holdovers.
Okay, The Holdovers was really good. Yeah, I was like pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed that. But yeah, I mean, Poor Things, like I think about it like this, like I think Barbie and Poor Things are saying similar ideas or have similar ideas, but Poor Things is based on a book that's definitely leaning towards science fiction.
Yeah.
And is directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. And if you've seen any of his other movies, have you?
I don't know. What else has he made?
The Lobster, Killing of a
yes.
Sacred Deer.
Yes.
Okay. He's not trying to make things that are going to be like received by like mass audiences
Right, of course.
positively. Like
Yeah.
he's just making whatever thing he wants to make. And
Yeah.
Barbie is based on like IP from Mattel, and Mattel had to clear it. And I think that Greta Gerwig is really good at making movies that like women can identify with, and it like really captures that like coming of age feeling.
Totally.
But all that to be said, I'm still very happy that Poor Things exists, and I think Emma Stone is amazing.
Yeah. She is my pick for Best Actress, I think.
That's gonna be a very stressful thing to watch.
I don't think she's gonna win it. I think Lily Gladstone is gonna win it.
I think it's just going to be like I can't like see I don't feel like sure that it's going to go either way, and I think that's one of those races where like they're both so good,
Yeah.
but I think that there's just this like big pull for Lily Gladstone, that people want her to win it so badly.
Of course, yeah. And the Oscars are a very like political kind of, which I mean is I don't necessarily hate. Also, Lily Gladstone was unbelievable.
Right.
Like I had never heard of her.
Yeah.
And then she's in this movie, and I like we were talking about that conversation we were having about like there's some times where I feel like, am I even qualified to be like judging this?
Yeah.
But the thing with acting, I think, is it's such a simple thing. It's, do I believe that you are this character?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, can I tell you're acting, or are you really selling this character? Which I think is an easy thing for anybody to pick up on. And that's how I felt about Lily Gladstone. And I was just like of everything going on in that movie, I was like, this is this character.
Yeah.
Like through and through. Like, and she did a phenomenal job for that reason. So I think, I mean, she is just as deserving to win for Emma Stone. I just like, for Poor Things, Emma Stone just like really, I don't know, just gave
she really gave it her all. And you could say too that technically she has a lot more screen time than Lily Gladstone had.
Yeah.
It's
just like the
hard.
character develops more, I think.
Yeah.
Like Lily Gladstone's character in Killers of the Flower Moon kind of like there's like two phases. It's like when she's healthy and when she's sick, and like that's pretty. And again, I think she did an amazing job, but I think you basically watch Emma Stone's character become like the brain of like a baby to evolve to be like a fully thinking adult and like very intelligent, and like the way she can transition the character I just thought was like unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that's why she was my pick. I just really liked Poor Things because, again, I think it just, to me personally, I just really loved, I like weirder shit, you know? I love Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is like this crazy mad scientist who's like a Dr. Frankenstein type guy.
Named God.
Yes, I loved that. And he's just got all these weird experiments, and she's one of his experiments. And and it just deals with these ideas that are just like so pure. And I just loved the character, how Emma Stone's character was just like open to anything, and was like, even when she was like being violated, she like wasn't affected by it, and she's just like, this is, you know what I mean, like didn't know, was so unaware of like societal norms and like rules and everything, that she just like was purely just like a sponge to the world when she first got to see it. And I don't know, there was something about it that even on the darker sides of it, I love that it kind of showed all of these things that I just thought was fantastic. And it had me laughing hysterically at so many parts.
Yeah, it was like a beautiful movie to look at. Like the costumes and the sets were amazing and like so different than anything I've ever seen. But also it was as if like the director said, okay, here's a character who like doesn't know what's right and what's wrong, and like I'm just gonna have them react to things how like someone with no conscience would react to them, like saying, I'm gonna go punch that baby. Like yeah, we all have to like silently, if we're on a plane and there's a crying baby, like you're not allowed to go be like, can you please stop crying? We all have to like just go along with it, because we know that's what we're supposed to do, and we're not supposed to say what we're really thinking. And it's like, it's almost just so freeing to like watch an entire movie where this character
just lets their intrusive thoughts win.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like liberating almost to like see somebody be able to exist like that without fear of judgment, because they like don't know any better, you know? I just really liked it. I love that like the whole thing was just kind of like a philosophical question on like humanity and society. And it was just everything I love in a movie, you know. Like,
and it was so different than the other movies that director has made. I didn't feel like it fit in those at all. Like those other movies made me so like uncomfortable almost, and they're very dark and hard to get through, especially like Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Yeah.
But Poor Things, I felt like was like his, I don't know what to call it, but like it was just very different for him, and it felt more like appreciative of life almost. Like I left it being like inspired and wanting to be like a better human.
The scene where like she just starts dancing across like the ballroom floor and just like doesn't know how to dance, but just feel the music is like so inspiring to her that she just starts like moving around, and she looks insane. But like leaving the movie, I was like, I want to dance like that on my way home. You know what I mean? And just like not care what anybody thinks, just like naturally do what my body wants it to do, you know?
Yeah,
like
and
it's
I want
that
to just
kind of
speak
movie.
like her.
Right.
I won't actually do that, but I would like to.
Yeah. Very, yeah. So that's why that's my number one. So, all right, what do we got? What's your number two?
Oppenheimer.
Okay. You went Barbenheimer 1 and 2. I love it.
Yeah, I do have a Barbenheimer shirt. I'm not wearing it today. I should have worn it.
That's okay. It's a good shirt.
Thank you.
Both were good movies. I loved Oppenheimer as well. It is further down my list than I like originally thought. Like after seeing it, if you would have told me it was my number 6 of the year.
Wow, it's actually very shocking. We saw it together also, and it was a perfect theater experience, and nobody spoke, and I didn't even get up to go to the bathroom.
Right, we saw it in IMAX, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan was like the first director who I knew his name.
Yeah, me too. I remember Inception coming out, and then like everyone being like, "Oh, it's a Christopher Nolan movie."
Yes. Well, The Dark Knight is like The Dark Knight was the first movie I ever went multiple times to go see it in theaters.
Yeah, I missed that. I don't remember what year it came out, but I just was like, oh, it's a Batman movie. Sure. I'm not into that. Now I've seen that.
Well, I think that's
great.
why. Yeah. And it made me like, I just thought I was going to see a Batman movie, and then I saw like a cinematic masterpiece.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, whoa. And then, you know, once Inception comes out, it's like, oh, this is the same guy who directed The Dark Knight. And then it's like, and then I loved Inception. And then I'm like, oh, I like Christopher Nolan movies. Right. You know, so that was the first time I started being like, you know, understanding like that directors have like a way of making movies that is like, you know, similar. Like as far as I knew, every movie I'd ever seen had been made by a completely different group of people or the same person. You know what I mean? Like it didn't mean anything to me. So Christopher Nolan was the first director I ever like loved as a director, and Interstellar is also one of my favorite movies. So like, and I love Cillian Murphy. So this movie checks all the boxes of like everything I love, and I did love it. There were just other movies that I think I just connected with more and made me feel things more. I think this year was so biopic heavy
Yeah.
that I just kind of like, I don't know, I'm just biopicked out at this point.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's maybe why it moved its way down. Even though I do have Killers of the Flower Moon up there, which is technically a biopic. But to me, Killers of the Flower Moon made me feel like way more than Oppenheimer did. But Oppenheimer still made me feel things, obviously, because it's dealing with a very heavy topic.
Yeah.
And this is also like, I mean, ranking things is kind of arbitrary, but
Right.
and maybe it's all recency bias because I saw all these movies after, but that's just where I kept it for now.
Yeah.
But I did love Oppenheimer. I don't want anybody to think that I had anything really critical to say about it, because it was fantastic.
I think it's hard for me to separate like how I feel about the movie versus like what the movie did, like what it achieved technically.
Sure.
Like the big, Trinity test scene.
Oh yeah, of course.
It was so amazing to see, especially on a big screen, and I think for me that weighs heavier than some of the things that I liked about other movies.
That's totally fair. Yeah, I feel like when I start ranking them, it's more of like my personal, like what it meant to me than actually, like what it achieved. So maybe take my rankings with a grain of salt, that it's like, this isn't necessarily what I think is like the best. It's just like how I connected to it, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, because when you put it in that point, like from like the sound, like the way they were able to achieve sound and like the makeup, I thought Oppenheimer had the best makeup out of like all the movies. Like the way like they aged them is like unbelievable. A lot of different things from the movie. I think Cillian Murphy is gonna win for actor. Yeah. But I would be pleasantly surprised if Paul Giamatti got it.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting race too. It's like, I don't like when the Oscars become predictable. Right. Like last year, it started being like, okay, once again, Everything Everywhere All at Once is winning this next. Yeah. And it's not Everything Everywhere All at Once is a great movie, but when I'm watching the Oscars, I don't want to be like, again. Like I want there to be like some shocking things
mix it up for sure. I also think this year's category of movies is way better than last year's.
Yeah, this has been a great year for movies. Yeah. I know everyone's saying it, but like the fact that I had already seen every single Best Picture nominee before the nominations came out. Yeah. And I was just a few short,
but now I got them all, so I'm excited. Yeah. Yes. The Holdovers, I have it as my number 4 movie of the year. It probably could be even higher if I started to get nitpicky about it, but again, The Holdovers just, I don't know, it is just a very Aiden movie. I think it's like, it reminds me of Good Will Hunting and Dead Poet Society, and those are 2 of my favorite movies. So it was like, for me, it just does something for me that like I really like about movies. Like, it was so heartwarming. It's just a classic story, but it's like, was still very fresh feeling, and like it felt like I was watching like an old classic Christmas movie, like A Christmas Story, but like nobody had heard the story yet. You know what I mean? Right. And so for me, it just like, I don't know, made me feel like a kid watching it, and that's the only one I've watched more than once.
Yeah, it was shot so beautifully, and like the music was great. I've had some of those songs stuck in my head, and
the soundtrack is phenomenal.
Yeah. I don't have much else to say about it, but it was one of the few movies on this list that I watched at home instead of in a theater, and I think that it didn't lose anything from that. Like, I would not say watch Oppenheimer at home. Like, if you could see it in a theater, see it in a theater.
I don't think The Holdovers necessarily needs to be a big screen movie.
Which is nice, because sometimes I want to watch a movie at home.
Yeah, absolutely. This is like mixed, what I watched in the theater and what I watched at home. And I was thinking about that recently, how I wonder how that skews my like ratings of things, and like also like my theater experience, right. Like when I go see a movie, if like I mean, Poor Things was so good that I was able to look past it, but that was the one that like the sound wasn't super loud in the movie, and like, and the projector wasn't calibrated right or whatever, but it was still very good. And but sometimes that'll I try not to let that alter my reviews of things. Yeah. All right, what else we got here? All right, you had Poor Things at 3. What do you have? A 4? Anatomy of a Fall. That is my number 5.
Wow.
Phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
I don't even think I knew about it until you told me about it, or you reviewed it on Letterboxd and I saw. Is that also up for foreign, or no? If it's in Best Picture, it's probably not in foreign.
I don't think it is, although I have all of these printed out. So,
but
I know that there was like a whole thing about France like submitting this and not submitting another movie that's supposed to be really good that I haven't seen yet, called The Taste of Things. I don't want to take forever to look through this.
That's okay. I can talk a little bit about Anatomy of a Fall. Really,
it's not in here.
Okay,
there you go.
So, I think it's technically a French movie. It takes place in France, and it's about this woman who is a writer and her husband who is also a writer. Her husband dies. We don't know how, and the one to find his body is her blind son, and his dog Snoop.
Great dog name. Great dog performance.
Phenomenal.
The dog won the Palm Dog Award at Cannes Film Festival this year.
Oh, that's good. I'll have to tell Dan McCormick that, because we were talking about this weekend. He's like, Snoop deserves an award.
Oh, Snoop got an award. Snoop deserves... They really need to add a dog category to the Oscars, in my opinion. Also a stunt category, but...
I agree. There's a lot of things I'm sure they could add. But, yeah, I really liked this movie. I loved... The courtroom, it's a, your go-to courtroom drama, but it was done like really interestingly, really well. A lot of, very dialogue heavy, and it switches between 3 different languages. The lawyer who's like on the, what do you call it? From the state or whatever, is such a dick.
Defending the husband, essentially.
Yes. Yeah. And he's so good, and the other lawyer, like her lawyer as well, also very handsome.
Yeah.
The whole like the tension that they're able to build in the room is really good, and I love, my favorite scene in the whole movie is when the son first goes up to testify, and the camera is just straight on him, and you can just hear other people talking and questioning him, and the camera angle just changes slightly based on who's talking to him, but it's just always on him. And I thought that was a really cool way to show like his blindness, and not just like blurred or like what, I don't know. I just thought there was a really cool way of showing that, and how we can't see who's talking, we can just hear their voice or whatever. But I really liked that movie. I thought, like, as far as just like character performances, like as a whole, it was unbelievable. And I truly like didn't know like which side to be like in favor of, as far as like, cause she's accused of like the husband's murder, and like, obviously you want to believe her the whole time. It kind of gave me like a Gone Girl vibe in that sense. You know what I mean? And like, I'm like, is this like a Gone Girl thing? Which, I mean, it kind of was, but yeah, no, just very good. I really like that movie a lot. And I'm sure it will win some stuff. Is she up for?
Yeah, she is. And she was also in Zone of Interest.
She was also in Zone of Interest.
Something I just wanted to say, too, while I'm thinking of it, is how in Zone of Interest, you like basically never see anyone's face like a front-facing shot. You're kind of just like observing them from like a distance. So it's like, I knew she was in the movie, but I was like, I can't even see her face.
Right.
But you can really see her face in this movie.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was her at first, and then eventually I was like, oh, that's definitely her. Yeah. I've also never heard of her until these 2 movies.
She did a few movies before these 2, but I think these are the ones that are really getting her like more recognition.
So we'll definitely see her in more.
Yeah, I can't wait. I think
she's great. She is phenomenal. Very captivating performances in both movies.
Her dog, her real life dog, is also the dog in Zone of Interest, according to an interview I read.
Okay.
The dog that's running around.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know what the dog's name is, but...
Okay. Well, it's no Snoop.
No.
I'll tell you that. Number 5, you got Killers of the Flower Moon, which we talked about a little bit already. Yeah, I just really like this. I didn't know anything about the I
read the book.
Okay.
I'm a real, like, read the book before see the movie type of girl.
Sure. I just don't have the time.
I want like the extra
or
credit.
Won't commit the time, I guess. Oh, that makes sense.
I know that no one is giving it to me, but like I read Dune before I saw Dune.
Wow.
And technically I only had to read like the first third of Dune before I saw that movie, but I read all of it, so I'm already ready for Dune Part 2 and 3 awesome. If that happens.
Did you like the book?
No. I mean, I didn't get it. It was a really weird book, but I
okay.
was like, I'm going to finish this book.
Yeah.
Killers of the Flower Moon, however, great book.
Okay. Did you read the Oppenheimer book? I forgot what it's called.
No.
Oh, okay.
American Prometheus.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's up for like adapted screenplay, so it's because it's based on the book.
Okay. Yes, Killers of the Flower Moon. I just like never knew about that story, and it just was like, goddamn, what a tragedy. You know what I mean? Like, or just like again, this is a movie that's not like no evil can sometimes just look fucking evil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Although I will say, I guess in terms of like this message of zone of interest, like Leo's character is like, was he really evil or was he just dumb and following his like uncle's
his uncle
orders or
and the way that
whatever?
we think that our parents or family members would
Right.
never lead us to do evil things.
Yeah, right. Like, was he convinced? Because his uncle was in his ear convincing him
Yeah.
that this was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like there is that kind of morality question as well. Is Leo up for? Okay, I was gonna say. I mean, Leo's great. I didn't find him particularly like in terms of like the performances we saw this year. I
Yeah.
didn't find him particularly like amazing as in this role.
Yeah.
And then I know Robert De Niro's up as well. Which I thought he was good too. He's always good. I don't know. It gets hard with these like big named actors. I'm like they're always good. You're
Yeah.
like used to seeing it,
Yeah.
that you like want to keep being wowed or something.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing is like I don't think that except for the best actress category, I don't think that any of the performances don't deserve to be up that are
Right.
nominated this year.
Right, for sure. But yeah, really liked Killers of the Flower Moon. Devastating story that just like makes you like angry and just like I don't know. That was a movie that I feel like so many times while I was watching it, I was just like, holy fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Just like kept getting worse and worse, and then Jesse Plemons shows up.
Yeah. I think that it's also a great movie in the sense that like it's told so well and also so many people saw it, and it's a part of history that just like I think a lot of schools like to ignore and not really teach.
Totally.
So in that way I'm glad that like the movie was made.
Right. I agree. I also want to talk about the radio show scene, which I know in your Letterboxd review you said it like made you feel uneasy.
Yeah, and then I kind of changed my mind on it.
Okay.
I think I understand what Martin Scorsese was trying to do.
Yeah, because I loved it, but I saw it as like this is the way that those things were, the way that those kinds of stories were told.
Yeah.
During this time, you know what I mean?
And
like,
how is it any different from when we listen to like a true crime podcast and they tell a story within an hour that was like someone's life being ruined,
right?
And it
exactly.
was so catastrophic, but we're just like condensing it
into entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I think, exactly what Scorsese was trying to do. I also love that he was in it. I also thought it was hilarious that Jack White was in there for some reason.
Yeah, there were a few musicians actually. Jack White was in it. Jason Isbell.
Yeah. Yo, Jason
Simpson.
Isbell was
He was
awesome
so good.
in it. Yeah. I loved it. Jason Isbell's character was great.
Yeah.
I love that he was like the good guy too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved, there were so many like big named people that just kept showing up as the movie went on.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. I mean, I just love Scorsese too. Just like, he rarely lets me down. I don't know if he ever has, if I'm being honest.
And we've gotten to be in the same room as him.
That is crazy. That is nuts. I've told that story a lot of when we went. And I wish. How did we feel about Beau is Afraid this much time later? Because I remember when we left, we were all like, I don't know how I felt about it. I haven't watched it again since.
I watched like half of it on January 1st at like midnight because it was on TV.
I remember you saying that. That was a wild way to start the year.
Yeah, specifically the Parker Posey scene. I think it's still great. It's just a very strange movie.
Yeah.
And I think that I want Ari Aster to keep making whatever he wants to make.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say earlier, as far as like movies that make you, there have been several movies that like you see it and you just can't stop thinking about it. And Ari Aster is one of those kinds of directors. And the reason Midsommar is one of my favorite movies ever is because the first time I saw it, I could not stop thinking about it for like 2 weeks. I thought about it like every day.
I also couldn't stop thinking about it, but like I had like an anxiety attack the day after I saw it, so it kind of affected me differently. But
Sure, but still powerful.
yeah, I didn't stop thinking about it for a while.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think that's why also just like I love the idea of that movie just being like obviously so visually beautiful but so haunting and disturbing as
Also
well.
a horror movie that takes place basically constantly in daylight is always so effective.
Yeah. What are some other examples of that?
Funny Games, which is a German movie that was also remade. So it was directed by Michael Haneke, and then he remade it in English starring Naomi Watts in like 2008, I think. And that's like about a family who goes to their vacation home on the lake, and their neighbors, sorry, let me quote neighbors, start like tormenting them basically. And it's like all taking place during the day, and it's just like you have the opportunity sometimes to leave situations and you don't. And I think that that's like so unsettling, because when we think of horror and we think of being scared, it's like the darkness that freaks us out in all these horror movies. But like Speak No Evil is another example. A lot of that takes place during the day, and it's like just all the not knowing of like what could really be going on. Like it's very, very eerie.
I really like that idea. I think Midsommar was the first movie I had seen like that. And I remember talking to somebody about it who like didn't like it, and I described like that was one of the main things I liked about it, was that it was like visually beautiful and all like during the day. And they're like, yeah, but like there's a bunch of other, like my friend who I was talking to was like, there's a ton of movies that do that. And I was like, oh well, I've never seen them. So.
I mean, honestly, I could only think of like those two just now. I want to make a list after this conversation about other movies that are
I'm sure we
can
find a letterbox list that has.
Yeah, but I don't think that I would ever get sick of that. I don't think it would ever be like not effective.
Yeah, and I think it is because like some things I don't like about horror movies are like I don't like jump scare horror movies.
Yeah.
Not for me. I like psychological thrillers. I love The Shining. Oh, I guess The Shining is one that is like takes place mostly like during the day and in like brightly lit scenes and stuff. But The Shining is one of my favorite movies.
Me too.
And I like horror movies like that, like horror movies that just like haunt you. You know what I mean? I'm just not for cheap thrills, I suppose.
Okay, you have to watch Speak No Evil. That is a movie that is going to haunt you for like 2 months.
Oh, perfect. All right, I'll add it to my list.
Weirdly so it only came out in like 2022, and it's a Dutch film, I think.
I remember like the buzz around it.
Yeah,
like
but
what people talking about it.
It's already being remade by I don't remember what director, but an American director is remaking it. It's supposed to come out like this summer.
What was the big one from this year? Talk to Me?
Yeah, that was really good.
I liked Talk to Me a lot too, even though that does have some like tropes in it, like classic horror tropes. But it was, I don't know, felt fresh to me. Although the like main scene with like the little brother was very hard to watch.
I covered my eyes.
Yes,
I'm not afraid to admit it.
Yeah. All right, cool. Me neither. Number 6 on your list, we have Past Lives. This is my number 2 of the year.
Nice. Love that.
Really loved Past Lives. Again, just a movie that I thought was very unique. I think this is my first snub, I think, of the year was for directing for this one. I remember, like, I think in my Letterboxd review of it, I mentioned, like, this definitely deserves to be in the discussion for Best Director. I don't know. I thought it was amazing. I've never seen a movie like it before. The way they tell the story from start to finish about just like two people who were just friends, you know, that's essentially what it is, right? Or they dated at one point.
No, they just like had like a very strong I interpret it as like they had a very strong friendship when they were kids, and they both wondered what would have happened to us if I hadn't moved to Canada and then the US. Right.
So yeah, so I really liked that idea. I also loved the husband's character, and like how understanding he was of the situation.
Yeah.
I fully thought he was going to be like a dick at first.
Yeah.
But then he ended up like, I loved that he was like an open-minded character and was like very supportive of the whole thing. And I'm a sucker for any movie that takes place in New York City. So
yeah, it's really beautifully shot, and I did go for a run to that like area where the carousel is. Yeah, great movie.
Performances are great. The actress, I feel bad. I don't know any of these.
Greta Lee.
Thank you. I hardly know any actors' names unless they're like A-list, unfortunately, and that's something I have to work on.
It's okay. At least you pronounced Cillian Murphy's name correctly.
Yes. Well, I am Irish.
I knew that.
Yes. So I do my best to say things Irish correctly.
That's part of the reason I want him to win, because I love hearing him speak in his Irish accent.
Did you watch the whole conversation with him and Margot Robbie?
Yes, I did.
One of the best.
So good. I mean, they both have great speaking voices.
Exactly.
And I love how they talk about like how easy it is for them
to do
how it's
accents.
like easier for them to do an American accent than American people can do their accents.
Yeah, it was crazy to hear their insight on like how they like manipulate their mouths and everything to change their accents. I was like, damn, that's like something I never even thought about it. Like the way like your tongue sits in your mouth and thing, like, and where you like hold your breath, like wild shit.
Yeah.
I find that stuff fascinating. And anytime I hear an Irish person speak, I just finished watching Normal People, and I'm just like, I think it is unfair that I don't have an Irish accent. You know?
I think so too.
It's unfair. Yeah. And I just like have all these ancestors that sounded cool as shit, and I just sound like I'm from Buffalo and say things like, "Where's the car?"
That's okay.
It's awful.
I'm not aware of my accent, but I'm sure that I have some sort of accent.
I'm sure it's just like a Northeast.
Yeah.
Not anything I noticed, but if you go somewhere else, I'm sure they would notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably in Ireland.
There you go. Yes, Past Lives, phenomenal. Was my number one all year until I saw Poor Things, and I think it just bumped it a little bit. But I also watched Past Lives a long time ago, but made me feel a lot of things, and I really enjoyed it. All right, at your 7, you have Zone of Interest, which you already talked about. I have that at 10, but I also have 2 non-best pictures ahead of it, which I have the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
That is nominated for
Best Animation. And then I'm going to say, just because it's not nominated for anything, I don't think, most underrated movie of the year for me, They Cloned Tyrone.
I still haven't seen it. I need to watch it.
I really liked it. Blaxploitation film. Really, really unique story. Feels like a Jordan Peele movie, but isn't. But a Jordan Peele movie that's a bit more on the nose and less about interpretation, which I like. I don't know, really cool story, and good commentary. Like, it's a very similar movie to Get Out, I would say, but just like a completely different concept. But like the sci-fi blaxploitation kind of stuff that I really liked. Maestro. I watched it the other night. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did.
I think it's getting some like negative reviews, which can like affect, how you go into a movie. Did you see any of those before you watched it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I feel like people are generally liking it. I just feel like I don't hear the hype about it like I am about everything else, though.
Yeah. I don't know how to like describe what people's exact issues with it are, but the fact that like it was put into theaters. I saw it in a theater with my mom, but also it went like straight to Netflix.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know it was in theaters.
I never saw it on the Netflix like top 10, and I was like, that's a bad sign.
Yeah, I don't know. It showed up somewhere as like a recommended movie for me, but maybe not in the top 10. Yeah. I also feel like the Netflix top 10 is always stuff I'm never interested in, though. I will say that. I feel like it's always like Love is Blind and like
yeah, but
all
with
these
the,
like reality
with the movies,
shows and stuff.
I don't watch those, but I will say like with the movies, like I think Society of the Snow has probably been in the top 10.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and that's a Netflix movie.
Yeah.
And that's nominated for Best International, and I watched it last night.
Phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
I have that. That is my number 7.
Nice.
So I had 3 movies ahead of Zone of Interest that were not up for Best Picture. Yes, Society of the Snow. Did we skip over Maestro? Oh, we kind of did. So we'll talk about Society of the Snow next. Maestro, really liked Bradley Cooper's performance, and
Carey Mulligan.
Carey Mulligan, thank you. Really, really good. I think I've only ever seen Carey Mulligan. I mean, she's in a few other things I think I've seen, but I mainly think of her in Promising Young Woman, which I guess I never really thought about like her performance in that movie so much. And it is, I mean, not that it's bad or anything, but like what I think that's a really good movie.
Yeah.
But her in this, I was like, oh, she is like a very great actor.
She's acting.
Yeah. My favorite part about Maestro was the way they speak.
Yeah.
how they like it sounds like the way people back then were like talking and like that kind of old timey talk that I really liked. I liked how their voices changed as they like get older in the movie. Something that I think is like, as far as like you're talking like good performances, like, and again that's what I looked for, like the Emma Stone thing too. I think like if the character is transitioning like the way that the actor is transitioning the character, I think is like a huge task. It's
so accurate too. I mean, you can go on YouTube and watch videos of Leonard Bernstein speaking, and like I think some people thought he was kind of like overdoing it, like the voice, but it's not if you just listen to how that person actually spoke.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about him before this movie, so I did like it from like an educational standpoint of like learning about how important this guy was and everything. Really good movie. The beginning of it, I was just like, I feel like this is gonna bore me. I wasn't at the beginning. I just really wasn't that into it. It was kind of reminding me of La La Land a little bit, and I'm just like, are we just doing like an Oscar bait thing about like the appreciation of the arts here? Because like I'm kind of over that. But it ended up being like a really good story, and like how like flawed of a man he was, but like how brilliant he was at the same time, and his relationship with his wife and everything. I thought it was really good. But I mean, it is definitely far down the list for me compared to the rest of the nominations. The Holdovers, we talked about it already. You have it at 9. That's okay. I won't feel personal. That's like, I feel like The Holdovers is like my Barbie, kind of.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Everyone can have their own Barbie as long as they don't say anything negative about Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig.
Absolutely.
To me,
Sure.
I've made that very clear.
Yeah, you have
to
twice
like
on this
everyone,
podcast, and I feel like 100 times in my life.
Exactly.
And I support it fully.
Thank you.
Yes. No, The Holdovers, I loved it. Reasons we already talked about. We can move on from that one, unless you have anything else to add.
No.
Okay.
I think Paul Giamatti was really great, though.
Fantastic. I loved it. I also loved the kid.
Dominic Sessa.
Yes, phenomenal. So I also read a bunch of behind the scenes things about that movie. It was filmed at like a boarding school he went to.
Yes, that's that kid's, I feel bad calling him a kid. That's that actor's first movie. He was just like pulled from the boarding school in Massachusetts that he went to. It was all filmed at like different schools in Massachusetts. And he was just a theater kid and got picked for this movie. And I just think that must be so exciting.
Yeah, totally. And he was great.
Yeah.
The snow.
Great snow. Probably real.
Yes. During filming, the campus or whatever got hit with a huge snowstorm, and the director like loved it.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, we're filming everything we can while the snow is here. So like all the snow is from an actual like storm that hit while they were filming. And then there's a few other ones, but the one I specifically remember is when they go to the liquor store, and he tells a story about like hitting the guy with his car, and then the cashier cashes him out and goes, "Here you go, killer." That was a real liquor store, and that was the guy actually working at the liquor store.
Wow.
Yeah, not an extra or anything. It was just the guy who was actually working at the liquor store, which I love. I love shit like that. Every time I watch a movie, I go into the IMDb trivia section and just read a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, and I really liked it. Okay, and then last but certainly not least, American Fiction. I watched it Sunday night.
Nice.
Super good. I did not hear anything about this movie until it got nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, it's based on a book that came out, I think maybe in like, I'm gonna guess like 2012 or 2013, like early 2010s. And I don't think that people expected it to get as many nominations as it did. Like, I feel like people have been pleasantly surprised that it has gotten nominated. But yeah, I feel like it's definitely like the lightest of all the movies here, but it also has an important message.
I agree.
And it balances the like emotional and the comedy well.
Totally. And I'm glad it did get nominated, because I probably would have just passed by it if it didn't.
Yeah.
And it was really good. It was super unique. I loved like the nuanced take on like, I feel like there was definitely a lot of like overcorrecting that may have happened in like during like the Black Lives Matter movement, or as a result of it in like Hollywood and entertainment, where it felt like it was like, I mean, that's what this movie is commenting on, is like, almost the glorification of like black violence
Right.
in entertainment, and like that kind of story. And this story is just trying to basically say that, like, you know, black people are not a monolith and can exist otherwise. But it's like, you know, this guy writes a story that he writes as a joke to be like a glorification of, like, you know, black drama tropes, and he writes it just to as a fuck you, and it ends up blowing up and people love it.
Yeah.
And, you know, he becomes like a star from it or whatever. So and I think it's hilarious that, like, the message it's sending, the movie ended up getting nominated for an Oscar is just the cherry on top of like, you know, the movie's very meta, and I feel like it just makes it all that much more meta of like the industry actually recognizing it when it's like calling out the industry for that reason, you know.
Definitely.
So I really liked it. Jeffrey Wright was great in it. I've only ever seen him in what was that show, Westworld.
I didn't watch it. I saw him in the Batman, the one with
Robert
Robert
I forgot he's in that
Pattinson.
too. Yeah. So yeah, I guess I've seen him in 2 things, but him in a comedic role was really fun. The movie is hilarious.
Yeah.
Had me like cracking up laughing so many times. Really dry humor, which I like, and then but it also tackles like very serious issues beyond what the actual like story is trying to tell, like the issues of like with his mom and dementia, and then his brother being gay, and like you know, and then him like with his own relationships and everything. Like there was a lot of elements going on, and I just thought it was a really great movie, and I'm glad it got nominated, and I did end up watching it. So
the director, who I think maybe was also the writer of the movie, he was a writer on like The Good Place and Succession.
Oh, okay.
And when I heard all these shows that he had been involved in, I was like, yes, this movie feels exactly like the voice of some of those characters.
Yeah,
and that
absolutely.
type of humor.
Yeah, that it's like a very cynical
Yeah.
take on these things. Yeah, so that makes sense for sure. Yeah, great movie for sure. Another snub while I'm looking at my list here that I thought, Zac Efron in The Iron Claw.
Yeah, great movie. I wish I knew why it didn't get considered for anything. It's just really unfortunate.
People are blaming A24
for their like the release date
for their
of it.
their like lack of I don't know, pitching it. I don't know how that process works or whatever, but
Yeah.
I guess the way that however things get selected is very strategic, and I guess A24 kind of fumbled the bag with it from what I've read online. But The Iron Claw was great, and Zac Efron's performance is definitely his best to date. Like, so moving, so he was phenomenal in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really liked that movie, and it you know, I don't know if it would have necessarily gotten a Best Picture nom, but
I think Zac Efron should have
Zac
been
Efron
nominated.
absolutely should have gotten nominated. Yes. Any other snubs you can think of to start?
I mean the Barbie of it all that
Sure.
everyone's talking about.
Yeah.
Which I'm really glad that Ryan Gosling got nominated, because I just rewatched Barbie a few days ago, so it's very fresh in my head. He's hilarious. Like, he does that role so well. That movie wouldn't be as good as it is without him doing what he's doing. But America Ferrera getting nominated, but not Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
And Greta Gerwig not being nominated, and just like,
Greta Gerwig, I think, is definitely a snub for sure. I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of good takes about Margot Robbie, and just in terms of like the competition, who she's up against. You know what I mean? Like, everybody who did get nominated absolutely deserved it.
I would have gotten rid of Annette Bening though.
Who is Annette Bening?
Because she was in a movie called Naiad, and I don't think it got as good of reviews, and like barely anyone was like mentioning her when they were talking about predictions. So I mean, when you look at the categories, I think it's important to be like, okay, well, if I think someone else should have been there, then like, who would I remove? And the issue too is it always feels like the Best Director category is like all men, except they find it in their hearts to let one woman be in there. So it's Justine Triet this year for Anatomy of a Fall, which she did a great job, but it's unfortunate that it always feels like it's just one woman.
Yeah,
it can't be her and Greta Gerwig.
Right, Greta Gerwig definitely deserves to be in there. And I think who directed Past Lives again?
Celine Song.
Yeah, also deserves to be in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what Rustin is.
Yeah, exactly.
For Best Actor. What else we got in here? Also, thank you for printing these out.
No problem. I didn't want to be on my phone because I think it's good to have paper in front of you.
Yeah,
sometimes.
absolutely. No, this looks like professional, I think. Who else we got in here? Supporting actor.
I'm a little bummed that May December actors didn't get more attention.
Yeah.
Like Charles Melton would have been really cool to see him get nominated. I think people were surprised that he didn't because a lot of people really thought he would. And then Julianne Moore, I thought should have been nominated.
Julianne Moore, absolutely. And I would probably pitch Julianne Moore above Margot Robbie if it was like one of them to get in for sure. Right. It sounds like I'm shitting on Margot Robbie's performance. I'm not. And I really liked in that interview where she's talking to Cillian Murphy where she talks about like how difficult it actually was to play Barbie because she had to play like, a character that doesn't like actually exist. You know what I mean? In reality, which is kind of hard, which, Emma Stone did as well, but obviously she got nominated. But, yeah, for best supporting actor, I feel like I would say Robert Downey Jr. But I don't know. I feel like it can kind of go either way. I feel like all of these are listed. Sterling K. Brown in American Fiction was phenomenal. Robert De Niro in Killers of the Flower Moon. He's probably my last pick. Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things was amazing as well.
That would be my number one pick, honestly, out of that category. I think he was so funny, and like I've never seen him in a role like that.
Yeah, same.
It was great.
He was super funny, and like emotive. Yeah. I really liked him in there as well. Supporting actress Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer is great. Did you see The Color Purple?
No.
I don't know why they remade that.
I don't either.
Because isn't like the original one like supposed to be like great? I don't know why they should remake shitty movies.
Yeah, to make them better.
Yeah. Not remake good ones.
I still don't. I mean, this is totally off topic. Not really, but like I don't understand why Mean Girls was remade, and I feel like I'm just like.
Well, at least they made that a musical. Is The Color Purple, the new Color Purple, a musical?
I think. Well, if it was first, it was a musical. Then it was made into a movie. First, it was a book. Then it was a musical. Then it was a movie. And then it was remade. But I just think that like Mean Girls didn't need to be remade.
Yeah, for sure.
Which sounds very like boomer of me, but.
No, I agree. And also like Mean Girls became like a Broadway musical, right?
Yeah.
So it should
and now
have just
this
stayed.
Is like the movie version of that.
Yeah. I would like to see a movie adaptation of, as far as musicals go, of the American Idiot musical.
Yeah.
Or the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
I feel like those are two things that people really want to see made into movies, and they haven't been. Nobody asked for that. The Mean Girls musical movie. Is it Divine Joy Randolph?
I think it's Davine.
Davine.
Sorry to correct you.
No, that's okay. That's why I asked. In The Holdovers, I hope she wins. She's amazing in that movie.
I would actually, that's like if I was going to bet money on something, that would be the thing I'd bet money on.
Yeah, she was awesome in that movie. And she's also great in, what's that show?
High Fidelity?
Is she in High Fidelity?
Yeah.
The new one with Zoe Kravitz? I never finished it. I should go rewatch it probably. I really like the movie High Fidelity with John Cusack.
Never saw it.
Oh, it's really good. Yeah. And it's I can't remember her name, but Zoe Kravitz's mother. Something I don't
Are you thinking of Demi Moore?
No.
Okay.
That's I think the name I was thinking of, but I think I realized I was wrong almost immediately.
Lisa something? I think she's dating Jason Momoa now.
Yes, she is. Yes, Lisa Bonet.
Jason Momoa has a HBO show now, by the way.
What's it
Did
called?
you know about this?
No.
It's called Roamers.
All right.
And I watched the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
I used to feel the same way about Jason Momoa that I feel about Adam Driver.
Yeah, I don't love him.
But I came around.
Okay, I like him more as a person than an actor.
I'm the same way. He seems very passionate about the environment.
He seems like a good guy.
He seems very passionate about life in a way that like I don't know that I'd ever like get myself to that
right.
level.
And
so
he
it's
is very
interesting
handsome.
to watch. Yes, and he's very excited about what he's doing. And the first episode is essentially just him hanging out with his motorcycle enthusiast friends, and they all together, like there's like 10 of them, and there's some that are in different states. They go to different states and visit them.
Is it a comedy?
No, it's like a docuseries. It's just like him on the road roaming. That's what it's called. Roamers.
So it's actually him being him.
It's like him doing the Zac Efron show.
Right.
Like
Excuse
the
me.
Netflix show that Zac Efron did about the environment, except
Yes.
this is just like Jason Momoa doing that, but specifically about his interests.
Is it great?
It's humorous to me.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what I was supposed to feel.
Yeah.
But he and his bike friends, they basically rebuild an old bike, or they build a new version of an old bike because
Okay.
he really wants to ride that bike up a hill.
Okay.
A dusty hill.
Yeah.
There's dust everywhere. And they're all wearing these shirts that have stripes on the sleeves. They all look like convicts.
Oh, okay.
And the shirts all say roamers on them.
This is so much.
Later in the season, there's going to be an episode with Slash.
Oh, good. I was
So
hoping when you were getting there, I was hoping you were going to bring Slash into this somehow.
Yeah. Slash also featured playing guitar on I'm Just Ken from Barbie. I can always bring it back to the topic that we're supposed to be talking about.
I didn't know Slash played on that. That's great.
Yes, if you watch the video,
Oh, okay.
you'll see him.
Good. Anyway, Lisa Bonet, Zoe Kravitz's mother, plays the love interest in High Fidelity, the
Okay.
movie with John Cusack. Highly recommended. Very good movie. Thank you for talking about the Jason Momoa show. I will definitely consider checking that out.
Yeah, no problem. I'm really glad that I got to bring it up because I've been really just shocked by it, and I don't know where to talk about it. So
Okay, well, this is the perfect
This was my
place on
opportunity.
the I Am Your Friend podcast. All right, then we get into original screenplay and adapted screenplay, which are all the Best Picture nominees. Oh,
Yeah, it's a
May
lot of
Descender,
this-
though, gets the screenplay one.
It's a lot of the same things over and over again.
Yeah, as it typically is. Animated, I still have to see The Boy and the Heron,
I need to see that as well.
and I want to see the English dubbed version just because of Robert Pattinson,
Me
of course.
too.
Yes. So I'm going to hope to do that soon. The Oscars aren't until March, right?
I think they're actually April.
April?
You have a phone. You
That's
can
true.
check. My phone is hidden.
I wonder if we can ask Siri. When are the Oscars? I don't know why she didn't speak, but March 10th.
Okay, I was
Yes.
way wrong, but March 10th.
I mean, not way
that's
wrong.
a great day. 6 days before your birthday.
And 6 days after your birthday.
That's kismet.
What does that mean?
I think it's another word that I could use when I want to say crazy or wild, but
Oh, okay.
good coincidence.
Kismet.
I'm just trying to say that's crazy or that's wild less.
Yeah, I do say those both a lot.
Serendipitous.
Yes, I like that. Yeah, wild is definitely my go-to. And every time I say it, I think of what's that? What was the movie from last year? Banshees of Inisherin, where she goes, "Wild!
Yeah, Carrie
I'm
Condon.
wild!"
Yeah.
That was pretty good, right?
Carrie Condon was in a movie that came out this month called Night Swim with about a haunted pool.
Oh yeah, was that good?
It was a movie.
That's all I need to know about that. Yes, Kismet. What if we watched the Oscars together and celebrated our halfway birthday?
That'd be so fun.
I agree.
Let's do it.
All right, cool.
Our apartments are about the same size, so
Yes.
it doesn't really matter where we do it.
Yeah, well, I figure Pat will want to do it as well,
Definitely.
so I'll come to you.
Okay, sounds good.
And we can drink NA Guinnesses. Well, I can drink NA Guinnesses.
I
Maybe
wanna
you
have
guys
one.
can drink regular Guinnesses. But yeah,
We could do a taste test.
That's what I'm saying.
You can do like
and
a
it's around
blind
St.
taste
Patrick's
test.
Day.
Yeah, sounds good.
This is all going great. Elemental getting nominated is insane.
It's funny because I remember when I saw Barbie with my nieces and my sister was like, we were going to go to the movies. She was like, do you want to see Elemental or Barbie? And I was like, I mean, I feel like Barbie is not really a kid's movie, so maybe we should see Elemental. But then my nieces apparently wanted to see Barbie more. Just funny to think about that day. I
Yeah.
could have seen Elemental or I could have seen Barbie.
Right. I mean,
And
I
I'm
haven't seen Elemental, but I
glad I
heard it
saw
was
Barbie.
like the most like bland
Yeah.
movie, and it's nominated. But it's
I've
just
heard
'cause it's a
Nimona
Disney
is good.
movie. Okay.
And I feel like I had something else to say about it or about someone being in it, and I can't remember who. It seems like good voice actors.
And there's one called Robot Dreams.
Haven't heard of it.
Sounds-
I mean, except for reading it on this piece of
Okay,
paper.
I'll have to check them out. But Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was really good.
Yeah.
All right, then we get a production design. Costume design.
I want Poor Things to win.
I think I do as well. Barbie, I could also see winning.
Yeah, that's true.
Napoleon is a boring choice for that, but I get it. So
Yeah.
is Oppenheimer, honestly. Coast of the Flower Moon makes sense. Cinematography. I don't know what do you know what that is? El Conde?
No, but it's on Netflix.
Oh, okay. Well, they got a
That's
cinematography.
all I know about
one.
it.
editing, makeup and hairstyling. See, that I hope goes to Oppenheimer. Although Maestro as well, for like the same reason. I feel like they both kind of do the same thing. Of like when they age, like how well they do it. Oppenheimer, I think more. But Maestro, as far as just like making Bradley Cooper look like Leonard Bernstein, was done very well. Sound, Oppenheimer is definitely probably my choice. Maestro maybe as well. Zone of Interest was very good too.
Yeah, some really interesting sound things happening in that movie.
What a just good year for movies again.
Yeah, very exciting.
What else we got here? Oh, international. Society of the Snow is in there, and the Zone of Interest is in there. Okay, so the Zone of Interest did get nominated for both, but
it's possible to be, I guess, to be nominated then for Best Picture and international.
United Kingdom, though, come on, is that really international?
There's an ocean separating us.
That's fair, but like as far as culture goes,
yeah, I understand what you're saying.
And we're speaking the same language. You know what I mean?
But the movie is spoken as German.
That's fair. Okay, I'll probably try to have to see these other ones. I always love the international features.
Yeah,
Last year, what was the one about the Irish girl?
The Quiet Girl.
The Quiet Girl. That was a movie.
Yeah.
I love
that was a movie in a different way than when I said Night Swim was a movie.
Yeah. Right, because you said it like this. You said, that was a movie. And I said, this was a movie. You know what I mean? Distinct difference there.
And that's something that we're very lucky to have here is like, I don't know what theaters The Quiet Girl went to.
Right.
Like outside of New York and LA. Like we're very lucky we can see those. Like I know Perfect Days is supposed to be really good, and I think that's going to be in like Village East on February 7th.
Is Village East like the very cool classic theater?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's owned by the same people who have Angelica or own Angelica.
Okay. Animated short, the one from last year was really good too. The one with the hats, remember? Ice Merchant,
but that didn't win, unfortunately.
I know, but it was really good.
It was really good.
So I like these categories for the reason of it introduces me to things I would normally never watch. You know what I mean? And animated shorts is one of those. Haven't seen any yet, but I will watch them prior to the Oscar. And then live action short as well. Those are always good.
Yeah.
Documentary I usually never watch. Just because I don't know why. I have no good excuse really.
Sometimes they're a little intense. Like, I mean, we talked about how we like movies because they're an escape.
Right.
If I have to watch
and documentary is real.
Yeah.
I will usually watch whatever wins, afterwards.
That's a good idea.
That's enough. But that's pretty much all I got.
Yeah. I don't really have anything else, but I love movies. I'm very passionate about them. I think Letterboxd is a great social media app that does not make me feel the way other social media apps make me feel.
Agreed.
It is a place of joy and comfort.
Yes, if I could pick one, it would be. Although I will say it's like functionality is pretty not great. It could be a bit more user friendly, I think.
Yeah.
But I do love the app. I love that it exists. It has made me appreciate movies even more. It's made me discover so many more movies, and it's made me really come into my own as like a movie lover.
Yes.
And I know it's an app that like people make fun of and like meme and like make people feel like they're pretentious for using it, and I reject all of that, and I think it's fun and it's a good way to connect with my friends. I also love writing like full reviews for movies.
Me too.
And I've gotten shit for that before, of people being like, you're not supposed to take it seriously, like it's supposed, like I don't know, there's like this idea that like I feel like, or that I've seen from people, that they're like, you're supposed to just like say like one line that's like funny.
Yeah, but it's not. But the thing is, like, this isn't Twitter. This is a place for me to share my thoughts. Sometimes I say nothing. Like, I watched Side of the Snow last night. I gave it 4 stars, and I didn't write anything.
Yeah,
because I didn't think I needed to say anything.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then when I saw Oppenheimer, I actually went onto my computer, logged on, and wrote like an over 500 word essay.
Yeah, sometimes I just like writing it out, you know what I mean? And like I have a lot of thoughts on what this was, you know, and I think that's fun. And that's what the app is for, you know, or else there would be a character limit.
Right. And I would never shame anyone for their usage of Letterboxd as long as they don't write anything mean about Barbie.
That is totally fair. Virginia, thank you so much for coming on to the I Am Your Friend podcast.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
I'm going to just fade it out.
Bye.
From there. Yeah. Well, okay. We'll just fade it out after that.
Okay, cool.
And you add the intro song back in and do all that stuff in post. Yeah, beep boop beep boop.